Part 69. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 681. Lucian, the flower monk, drank a mouthful of the elf wine and ate a large piece of barbecue with seasoning. Seeing that the explorer only drank water and ate barbecue, the monk was very surprised. After asking, he found out that the explorer was an ascetic monk, and his master Guojinsong was also a person Lucian admired very much. He praised Guojinsong in front of the explorer. Suddenly, the crows outside were screaming loudly, which was very disturbing. When he went out to see, it turned out that there was a new crow's nest on the green poplar tree at the corner of the wall, which kept screaming from morning to night. Some people said they wanted to take a ladder, some said they wanted to climb up by themselves. Xiaoming could actually do it by throwing 2 stones over. Or he could also use the general skill of flicking coins. But now Xiaoming is a little reluctant. Some time ago, Xiaoming couldn't help himself and finished the game of flicking fingers. So the general skill of flicking coins was also upgraded to the top level by the system. Although the power is much greater, each time it is fired, a gold coin is consumed. Although it is expected, it still hurts a little. Xiaoming decided that a man should not fire easily. Besides, in order to see the famous scene, Xiaoming would certainly not stand out. Watching Lucian step forward and uproot the tree. When the ruffians saw it, they all bowed to the ground, and before they could flatter him, someone outside the wall cheered loudly, "What a great strength!" It turned out that Lin Chong had arrived. According to the original book, Lucian needed some time to meet Lin Chong. In the game, these two things are compressed into the same copy. The ruffians recognized Lin Chong and introduced him to Lucian. Lucian also introduced the explorer to Lin Chong. Another meal of wine and meat, and then entered the time of sparring that everyone likes to see. Lucian first had a fight with Lin Chong to satisfy his desire. Then he and Lin Chong fought against the army of shadow clones of the explorer together. Since there were 2 people, Xiaoming used more than 200 shadow clones to fight Lin and Lu together. And this time the explorer himself was also killed. The explorer's mental shield can completely withstand the ordinary attacks of the 2 Tiangang stars. Absolutely a tortoise shell. In the Avatar world, Pandora's goddess Eva raised Xiaoming's mental power to the peak of level 6. The mental shield used by Xiaoming also rose with the tide and became more powerful. In terms of offense, Xiaoming once got a universal item in the Marvel Secret Realm, a level 6 weapon Loki's dagger. This weapon, even Lin Chong and Lucian had to avoid its edge. The 3 of them were not fighting for life and death, so Xiaoming did not use the second to speed up, nor did he use stretchable love and hate to mess up. He wanted to ask for advice. Lin Chong and Lucian were both martial arts masters. They could see that the explorer's close combat skills were quite insufficient, so they also wanted to give him some pointers. After a battle of guidance, Xiaoming gained a lot. When the battle was in full swing, Xiaoming used his 3 heads and 6 arms. At the same time, he took out his Zanpakuto Claude 6 styles. There is also the mysterious realm of the god of death in the Magic Planet game, so the Zanpakuto can still be used. Divided into 6 weapons, Xiaoming used the Naga sword technique. In the game, even if it is just a shallow attack with the Zanpakuto, it can also exert the power of a 6th level weapon. Coupled with the Sea Clan's top fighting skills Naga sword technique, for a while, the explorer can also fight back and forth with the 2. With the source energy constantly replenishing physical strength and magic power, the explorer can also fight a protracted war. The 3 fought heartily, and Lucian was very excited. At this time, a little maid ran in from outside in a panic. The system started to follow the plot again. The little maid who came in was Jin'er, the maid of Lin Chong's family. It turned out that Lin Chong brought his wife and maid to Daxiakuo Temple to burn incense and fulfill his vows, and Lin Chong ran to the vegetable garden to watch the fun. Over there, the wife went to burn incense, but was stopped and molested by Gao Yanyi, the adopted son of the current Taiwei Gao Qiu. Jin Er saw that the situation was not good, and hurried out to find Lin Chong. When Lin Chong heard this, he was so angry that he followed the maid. Xiaoming and Lu Zishan naturally followed to help. At this time, the system intervened again, and Lu Zishan and Zhang San, Li Si and other ruffians ran away in the blink of an eye. Xiaoming had to find his own way. This was not difficult. Xiaoming enlarged the circle a little and found the direction immediately. When rushing over, he naturally encountered obstacles halfway and was stopped by more than 40 second-level soldiers. According to the system settings, if Xiaoming cannot finish fighting within a certain period of time, this time it will be Lu Zishan's turn to bring the ruffians to help him. Xiaoming was too lazy to use his shadow clone, and hundreds of gold coins were ejected, knocking down the corpses on the ground. He harvested the breath of death at will. When he rushed to the scene of the incident, Lu Zishan had not arrived yet. Lin Chong grabbed Gao Yanyi. He didn't do anything for a while, because he recognized that this person was the son of his boss Gao Yanyi. Gao Yanyi's followers knew Lin Chong and knew that he had hit a wall this time. He was just about to step forward to persuade him. The explorer rushed to him quickly, kicked Gao Yanyi to the ground, and beat him up with punches and kicks. Lin Chong couldn't beat his boss's child himself, so it would be better if someone else did it for him. How dare you? Stop! You dare to hit the son of the current Taiwei! Gao Yanyi's followers shouted and threatened, and rushed to save him. But they were all stopped by Xiaoming's shadow clones, and their hands and feet were broken one by one. Gao Yanyi was a bastard, but these lackeys were even worse. They bullied people and brought disaster to the village. How many things were instigated by these lackeys? The incident got out of hand, and Lin Chong's family was persuaded to leave by Xiaoming's shadow clone. It was not good for them to stay here and watch Gao Yanyi get beaten. Xiaoming broke all the limbs of this group of guys, and Gao Yanyi also broke one more limb. The dungeon was over. After this dungeon, Lu Zishan and Lin Chong's favorability towards the explorer increased to more than 50. They were considered good friends. Zhang San, Li Si and others were not qualified to calculate the favorability in the dungeon. Even Gao Yanyi was not qualified. Gao Qiu's favorability towards the explorer fell to around -50, reaching the level of hatred. As a Liangshan bandit, the favorability between the explorer and the officials of the Song dynasty was naturally -20. After this dungeon, the relationship between the explorer and Gao Qiu suddenly reached hatred. In the Wild Boar Forest dungeon, the explorer only saved Lin Chong, and Gao Qiu was not so resentful. Lin Chong was still a prisoner, and there would be plenty of opportunities to manipulate him in the future. There is also the dungeon of the Fengxiu Mountain Temple. However, breaking Gao Yanyi's 5 limbs directly offended Gao Qiu. It is normal for Gao Qiu to hate him. Although the things in the copy did not really happen, players still have to bear some consequences. Xiaoming took benefits from Lin Chong and Lu Zishan, so he had to pay some price on Gao Qiu's side. It was fair and reasonable. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 682. After solving the dungeon of pulling down the Weeping Willow, Xiaoming did not open any new dungeons. If the difficulty of each dungeon increases, Xiaoming thinks that he should be cautious when entering dungeons in the future. It is best to try to enter dungeons related to Tiangang Star. Moreover, the scope of Tiangang Star is actually too large. Since we have connected with Lin Chong and Lu Zishan, we should try to improve their favorability. Wu Song seems to be on this line. Alas, I can't remember it clearly. I will take a look at the information related to water margin when I have time. These dungeons are very generous in favorability, which is also the credit of Xiaoming's victory in the battle. But the dungeons are more stingy in experience and money. Money, Xiaoming doesn't care. Our business is so big that we don't need this little change. But experience is very important. From the forum, it seems that the top group of players in the game has reached level 3 for a while. Xiaoming's character has been left far behind. So Xiaoming sent out a large number of shadow clones, under the control of the spiritual kingdom, to various corners of Tokyo City, accepting and completing various tasks. And try not to accept tasks that seem to be more troublesome. Accept more small tasks that don't require thinking, don't pursue quality, and rely on quantity to accumulate. This operation actually raised the adventure level of the explorer to level 25 within a week. The results are remarkable. In fact, Xiaoming didn't have much time to possess the explorer. The most important reason for this result is that there is only one player in Bianliang City, the explorer. No one came to compete with Xiaoming for tasks. It became very easy for the shadow clone to accept tasks. Countless tasks accumulated over time were piled up everywhere in the city, which was originally a feast prepared for the highest level high-end players. Xiaoming took the lead. Xiaoming spread hundreds of shadow clones in the city, and on average each clone was doing several tasks. The experience gained was naturally rich. Another reason is Xiaoming's strong strength. A level 2 character, but the strength of the shadow clone is around level 5. Some tasks may be extremely difficult for level 3 players, but they are a piece of cake for the shadow clone. Unless it is a task that challenges IQ, the difficulty of the current tasks cannot stop the shadow clones. That is why the explorer can upgrade so quickly. During this period, Xiaoming wanted to see the famous Li Shishi. However, the brothel where Li Shishi is located does not even allow explorers to enter. The minimum requirement for entering the door is to have a title of the Song dynasty, or a corresponding status to enter. As a rebel, the Liangshan forces are at a disadvantage. Only the 36 Tiangang stars can see Li Shishi. The identity of the explorer is still far away. This is the first time that Xiaoming feels the limitations brought by the identity of a bandit. It is also the first time he regrets the lost title, 3 seconds. In addition, Xiaoming found a college in Tokyo City. According to the information he inquired about, studying in the college can gain relevant experience of the life profession scholar. However, as a bandit, the explorer cannot enter the academy. Xiaoming complained about this to Fan Rui, but Fan Rui laughed. We already have our own academy on Liangshan. With the status of an explorer, we can use it at will. Xiaoming was relieved after hearing this news. Let's talk about the development of the researcher. On the strategic map, the Li family pirate sneak attack plan on the Ladeo family has entered the final preparation stage. All the sailors on the ships are training intensively. The sailors of the Li family must be familiar with the combat mode centered on large ships as soon as possible. The generals of the fleet are also studying and perfecting the plan for this battle day and night. This time they are ready to hurt the Ladeo family in one fell swoop. After the second brother Richard became a bronze saint and the eldest sister Li Huamei became a silver saint. At the request of the eldest sister and the second brother, the researcher also gave Yang Zio the seat of the microcosm. Yang Zio was originally one of the housekeepers of the Li family. He followed the young lady to become a pirate and made outstanding contributions. He was like Li Huamei's father, giving her a strong support. Of course, it was worth it for the couple to ask for this. As sworn brothers, they must help. Even if they help, it is difficult for the favorability to increase. If they refuse, it will definitely decrease. This is also the price to pay for being brothers with NPCs. Xiaoming also feels very good about Yang Zio and readily agrees. In fact, everyone in Li Huamei's team, from top to bottom, who fights for sea power for the motherland, deserves Xiaoming's admiration. Yang Zio is still strong and successfully became a Saint Ciya, with a strength between the admiral and his wife. With a powerful force, Yang Zio's favorability towards the researcher actually increased from 70 to 80, which is very rare. Similarly, in order to upgrade, Xiaoming manipulated the researcher to go to the adventure map. In the city of Danshan of the Elves, a large number of shadow clones were released to do tasks to upgrade the researcher. Unfortunately, Danshan is a small city, and many players have already entered the city. The tasks that Shadow Clone received here, both in quality and quantity, were much worse than those received in Tokyo City. Fortunately, Xiaoming did not pursue high-end tasks, and mainly relied on quantity. He raised the adventure level of the researcher to level 22. In addition, Xiaoming contacted their uncle Adrian Hongyi through the two guards assigned to him by the elves, Alan Hongyi and En Hongyi. After such a long time, the researcher has provided the elves with a lot of puppets and other materials. The contribution to the elves is not small. The Hongyi family's favorability towards the researcher continues to rise. Now it has reached more than 30, the level of goodwill. Xiaoming informed the elves' high-level officials through the Hongyi family that he could make second-level puppets. The elves really re-established the purchase agreement with Xiaoming. The puppets required every week have become second-level puppets. The 4-puppet canoe must also be second-level. After the first order agreement was signed, Xiaoming encountered a group of rogue players in Tanshan City. Xiaoming arranged the elves to beat them up. Now, I don't know how much they paid, but they are back again. There are more people and stronger strength. The leader's adventure level has reached 3rd level. The researcher himself did not meet them, but a shadow clone of the researcher met them. Enemies are particularly jealous when they meet. At the beginning, because of the researcher, they suffered a great loss and delayed their development progress for several days. At this moment, they saw that the researcher was a person, there were no elf-transformed weasels and thrushes following him, the location he was in belonged to the blue neutral zone. They didn't even say a word of nonsense, and immediately launched a siege. No matter what, they beat up the researcher first and vented their anger. This time, he was quite straightforward, and he would never talk nonsense if he could take action. The shadow clone had no time to play with them, and jumped up several feet, and came down with a move of fire escape, had hard work, burning these players into ashes. This time, it seems that he didn't pay attention to their ids. Oh, forget it, it doesn't matter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 683. David, loser, you are my guard now, don't run around, the diver shouted at an octopus-headed monster. Captain David Diozzi also shouted in response to the diver's order. I've never seen him give face like this before. It can only be said that David got on the ship, which was still a sea ship, and his spirit became extremely excited. It's been too long since I've been on board. He was originally a strong man who roamed the sea. For some special reasons, he became the captain of the legendary battleship Flying Dutchman. His heart was also sealed in a separate box. Years later, something unexpected happened. He turned into a special kind of undead that was a mixture of sea people and humans, and the crew members on this ship also became that kind of undead. Among them are old shoelaces. Later, the entire legendary battleship and all its crew members were sealed by the gods. Somehow, the octopus boss kept it as a personal item. The chest containing David's heart was placed at the site of the shipwreck. These are the stories before the start of the Magic Planet game, which can also be said to be the background settings. After the game started, Xiaoming obtained the 3rd and 4th characters early under the care of the nine-tailed fox. Without doing any racial tasks, Xiaoming's 3rd character was assigned to be a sea tribe, named Diver. The 4th character is arranged to be the undead, that is, the one who tells the dead. The birthplace of divers, Undersea Limestone Town, is a small sea town not too far from the shipwreck. Not long after, the box was dug out of the wreckage by the little octopus Bobby, and fell into the hands of the divers. Xiaoming used source energy to repair the ancient box, and used archaeology to take out the heart inside. But at that time, Xiaoming didn't know who David Diozzi was. I didn't even know where to find him, so I put the matter on hold. After some time, the divers met the octopus boss. The octopus boss showed mercy and gave the divers the bottle that sealed David and the battleship. As a result, Xiaoming still didn't know the goods, so he had to help him release the battleship personally. As the diver holds the heart of David Diaz. So David and the entire warship had to obey the diver's orders. David felt at that time that his good days had finally arrived. You can also drive a legendary battleship across the sea. Unexpectedly, the divers did not trust David, so he promoted a guy named Old Shoelace from David's men to a hero and led the fleet to sea. Instead, he himself was transformed into a general and became the diver's personal bodyguard. Such a huge contrast almost made David angry to death. Now the diver has finally become a hero and has his own fleet. David was able to step onto the deck of the battleship again. It was inevitable that I was a little excited. I often couldn't control myself and yelled at the boss on the boat. I have to be yelled at by a diver every time. This guy refused to change despite repeated admonitions. Xiaoming suspected that he was deliberately looking for trouble just to say Captain. In addition, David was also surprised to find that the Sea Tribe's ship was as easy to dive as his previous ship. After the diver became a hero, due to his special status, he also became a junior naval admiral of the Sea Tribe. With the help of the Naga clan, a Sea Clan fleet consisting of 5 Sea Clan boats was obtained from the beginning. Before becoming a hero, the diver already had a fleet at sea due to the special plot of the Flying Dutchman. The 4 ships that make up this fleet were all given to him by the octopus boss. All are medium-sized ships that are sealed. The commander of the fleet is the second-level undead hero Lao Zilace. The 4 generals under his command and the troops operating the ship are all undead pirates. They were all summoned by divers from the wreckage of large ships using Death Harvest. He was either a navy or a pirate during his lifetime. The Flying Dutchman is bound to David. Failed to join the fleet of Old Shoelaces. Xiaoming is more worried that there is something fishy in this ship. It would be bad if David Diozzi took advantage of him. So even if the diver became a hero, Xiaoming did not dare to let the diver use the ship. Just keep sealing it in the bottle. Lao Shule's fleet set off from near Pingnan City and headed east along the river. It ignored any forces it encountered along the way and rushed into the sea as quickly as possible. After the diver officially becomes a hero, comes to the strategic map, and meets up with Old Shoelace. Only then did I know that the location here is on the sea at the southern end of the Ming dynasty. In terms of the geography of Pangustar, it is the South China Sea area of New Han Kingdom. Then the 3 cities of Pingnan, Annan, and Zhenese where the deceased were reported should be located exactly at the junction of Ming dynasty and Annan. Judging from the degree of desolation, it should still be in Annan. Originally, Xiaoming planned to let Lao Shule's fleet head north, cooperate with the researchers' fleet and participate in the battle between the Li family pirates and the pirates coming to the island. After that, you can continue to go north, log into the 4 islands of Japan, and cooperate with the troops who report the dead. Become king and hegemon in East Asia. But later Xiaoming became obsessed with the martial arts planet and entrusted the matter of the magic planet to an intelligent program with a soul. Xiao Wu'er, who was operating the diver at that time, carefully thought about the strategic policy. Xiaoming's original route was changed and went completely in the opposite direction. Instead of going north, he set sail for the south. Xiao Wu'er thinks that since the Li family pirates have 10 large warships, the 4 medium-sized warships of Lao Zide are of little use. The dead on the island of Dongying are strong, and the components of the vampire cloak can continue to increase the army. This fleet is just icing on the cake. It is better to go south to Southeast Asia to explore the way for other characters. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time to go back and forth from north to south. It is better to leave the things in the north to the fleet of the researcher. The most important thing now is to try to collect everything on the sea while the players have not yet gained the ability to sail. That's all, Silver. Xiao Wuer's idea was appreciated by Xiao Ming. It's just that he does things slowly and doesn't distinguish between the important and the unimportant. He will pick up the resources on the sea as long as he sees them. He will also kill the weak wild monsters. So the joint fleet of divers is still wandering around the South China Sea. It hasn't gone far. But there are also benefits to this. The strategic experience of the diver grows faster. Before Xiao Ming took over, it was already level 0 and level 4. This is when part of the experience was taken away by the Admiral skin. The diver's primary Navy Admiral skin happened to be upgraded to level 4. Unfortunately, it is not easy to replenish the Sea Tribe's troops. The diver does not have the Sea Tribe's village building stone available. This is the bad thing about the hidden race. The strategic map is full of cities, but there is almost no one belonging to the race. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 684. The more common races are the same on both the adventure map and the strategic map. Humans, elves, orcs, and undead are all over the two maps. Even some derived races are on both sides. For example, half-orcs, dwarves, half-elves, etc. Player heroes of these races always have the opportunity to find villages and cities of their own race on the strategic map to provide themselves with logistics and military supplies. But players of hidden races like the Sea Tribe are completely different. The diver also searched the seabed of the strategic map, but so far no Sea Tribe village has been found. It seems that the Sea Tribe does not have much power on the strategic map, unlike the adventure map, where they are almost all over the ocean. If they still can't find it in the short term, Xiao Ming will have to consider using soldiers of other races as the main force. Even completely abandon the Sea Tribe troops. However, there is also a major trouble if he does that. The diver's fleet belongs to the Sea Tribe's fleet. In the Sea Tribe's ships, the proportion of the number of Sea Tribe soldiers must account for more than 50%, which is a rule. For the time being, this is not a big problem. Because when the Sea Clan fleet was first acquired, the Sea Clan arranged 100 zero-level Sea Clan sailors for each ship. The maximum number of people that a small Sea Clan ship can carry is 150. Half of it needs more than 75 people, and 100 people are enough. The minimum number of crew members is a few crew members. After all, it is just a small ship. So as long as these sailors are kept as much as possible, there is no problem at present. But there will always be a need to change to medium-sized ships or large ships in the future, right? At that time, the Naga clan may not replenish sailors for the divers again. Big trouble. Moreover, even now, after the primary Navy Admiral skin reaches level 4, the command power of the divers has risen to 500. He can replenish a large number of people for the fleet, and even replace some of the zero-level sailors. After all, the combat effectiveness of the zero-level arms is too low. But because of the limit on the proportion of the number of arms, it is impossible to replenish too many other arms. When Xiao Wuer was operating the divers, he did not even replenish any other arms. All the surrendered enemies were transferred to the fleet of the old shoelace. The strength of the first guard of the temple led by the diver himself did not improve in terms of manpower. On the contrary, in several battles, Xiao Wuer accidentally lost more than a dozen zero-level Sea Clan sailors. Xiao Ming estimated that Xiao Wuer must have a deep meaning in doing this. Perhaps if the first guard of the temple is all Sea Clan, there may be additional benefits. It is worth it for Xiao Ming to continue to do so. The ship is small and there are few people. Xiaoming faced such an embarrassing situation after logging into the diver. He looked at the octopus head of David Diosy standing next to him, and his big crab claws. Xiaoming's eyes suddenly lit up. Those strange undead crew members on the Flying Dutchman, in addition to the undead attributes, seem to have some C-clan attributes. Do they count? Now it's a good time to try it. Xiaoming dispersed all the zero-level sailors on the flagship to other ships. Only 20 C-clan soldiers of his private army were left, and then he began to transfer people from the fleet of Old Shoelace to the flagship. 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23. When the undead sea people accounted for more than half, Xiaoming's heart was lifted. It turned out that there was no problem. The ship can still be driven and sailed normally. Via. Great. Xiaoming happily waved the four fists of the diver. David's former subordinates can indeed be counted as sea people. Excited, Xiaoming thought about it and returned all these undead sea people to Old Shoelace. The organization of the guards remained the same as before. These undead sea people were David's former subordinates. After they boarded the flagship, David Diosy's strength will be enhanced. It is hard to guarantee that this guy will not lead his subordinates to rebel. Xiaoming does not intend to give him this opportunity. This matter still needs to be considered in the long run. Xiaoming must now find a way to supplement the sea people's arms. Otherwise, the small size of the ship is not a problem. In the long run, Xiaoming thinks there will always be a way to solve it. Maybe if enough merits are made, the high-ranking officials of the Sea Clan will reward the Sea Clan with village-building stones. The real trouble is what to do now. Should we pull non-Sea Clan soldiers into the Sea Clan fleet? Or use only this small number of troops to fight? It is possible, but Xiaoming always feels a little unwilling. There is an inspiration floating in his mind, but he can't catch it. Intuition tells Xiaoming that the breakthrough must be in David Diosy. But what should be done specifically? The diver stared at David Diosy's eyes. Eyes. By the way, I have Sherry Nan. We can make a breakthrough from David's spirit. At present, Xiaoming has no way to transform the diver's eyes into Sherry Nan. However, he can summon the 7 Stars Shadow Clone with Sherry Nan. The 7 Stars Shadow Clone pulled David Diosy's spirit into the world of Mangekyo Sharing and Tsukuyomi. But suddenly found out, what is going on? David's mental power is actually as high as 4th level. The 7 Stars Shadow Clone is only 3rd level. Could it be that only his body was sealed, but his mental power was not sealed? No, that would be wrong. He should have felt it when he was in the outside world. The most likely possibility is that the power that sealed David's mental power did not enter the Tsukuyomi world. So his mental power was released here. When David Diosy's spiritual power was just pulled in, the entire Tsukuyomi world seemed very unstable, shaking like a small building in an earthquake. David Diosy was stunned at first, not knowing why, and then laughed wantonly. Wahahaha. Stupid guy, thank you for saving me from the seal, let me eat your soul as a reward. You should feel extremely honored to be a part of me, WTF, what is this? Pretending to be struck by lightning. The 7th Shadow Clone is not fighting alone, he has always been under the control of Xiaoming's spiritual kingdom. When he found something wrong, Xiaoming's spiritual power immediately descended to the Tsukuyomi world. The spiritual power of the peak of the 6th level scared David Diosy, who was in ecstasy. Curled up in the Tsukuyomi world, trembling. This power is even stronger than the goddess of the sea Calypso back then. David was almost scared silly. It was not surprising that he had such a feeling. The goddess of the sea he met that year was in a sealed state, so her mental power was naturally weaker. How could it compare to Xiaoming's mental power in its prime? With his knowledge as a mortal, he could not tell the difference. He just thought that he had met a god more powerful than Colabuso today. In addition to fear, he was also a little relieved. It seemed that it was not bad to fall into his hands. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 685. Zerg Conquer once again exerted its powerful power. David Diosy was conquered by Xiaoming. Generally speaking, Zerg Conquer has a miraculous effect on Zerg. It also works well for beasts and monsters, but the effect on humans is much worse. However, after possessing the moon reading ability of the Sherinan, with the help of illusion, it seems to have a good effect on humans. Although David Diosy is just a high-end NPC in the Magic Planet game, a piece of program code. However, judging from Xiaoming's cognition, he is more independent than ordinary humans and has a real soul. It can be said that David is more like a human than many humans. This point is shown in many very high-level NPCs in the game, and Xiaoming gradually felt it as his strength increased. It was originally impossible for Xiaoming, who was at the peak of the 6th level of mental power, to conquer David Diosy, who was at the 4th level of mental power. Coincidentally, David had been cursed by God and was beaten badly by different gods. His willpower became less strong, so he was conquered by Xiaoming. The system actually reminded Xiaoming that David Diosy's favorability towards the diver had risen to 70 intimacy. He had been subdued, but his favorability was not 100, not even 90. It seems that he cannot be completely relieved. Of course, Xiaoming did not forget his real purpose, which was to find the source of the undead Sea clan. Without the suppression of the seal, David also remembered his long-standing memories. The appearance of the undead Sea clan was actually a skill he gained after being cursed after violating the agreement with the goddess of the sea, Kalibuso. In theory, his skill in creating this half-undead and half-sea creature is a curse. The name is called Undead Sea Clan. However, the actual situation is that this has become David's racial talent. The undead and sea creatures can be merged to form a new race, the Undead Sea Clan. The Undead Sea Clan has the undead characteristics of the undead and the aquatic characteristics of the sea. Most undead and sea creatures will accept that they are the same kind. A few undead and sea creatures who value pure blood will regard the undead sea creatures as heretics and want to get rid of them as soon as possible. Xiaoming drooled at this ability, but how can he get it? Is he cursed? Who am I? How could the goddess curse me specifically? Besides, it seems inappropriate to bear a curse. Suddenly, Xiaoming had an idea and came up with a plan. In the Tsukuyomi space, Xiaoming put on the teacher's uniform for David Diosy, put on the student uniform himself, activated the ability of the private tutor, designated the Undead Sea Clan skill as the learning target, and forced to learn. Xiaoming just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect that the uniform beast could actually appear in the Tsukuyomi world. There is also a great risk in doing this. If this is a skill that cannot be learned, then Xiaoming will be strongly backlashed by the private tutor. If Xiaoming didn't intuitively feel any danger, he really wouldn't dare to do this. In theory, this is a racial talent and cannot be learned. If the player wants the Undead Sea Clan, he needs to help David Diosy remove the seal. David can use this skill. Then if the player has a good relationship with David, he can exchange this new type of soldier from David. And it is almost impossible to conquer David like Xiaoming. David is a very unruly NPC. The difficulty of conquering him is at the ceiling level, which is definitely something that can only be done in the later stages of the game. Xiaoming has created a miracle in advance again. According to Xiaoming's progress, as long as David's seal is removed, David can help him create the Undead Sea Clan. But how to remove the seal, Xiaoming has no idea at all. As for learning this talent, it is even more difficult at the ceiling level. There are only two ways. One is to repeat the same mistakes. According to David's approach, the diver can also let the god curse once. This is a simple way. A more powerful way is that after the rank is very high, the player can also learn this talent from the goddess of the sea, Kalibuso. But in fact, the prerequisite for learning this talent is that the mental power is high enough. It just happens that Xiaoming has reached it. It is impossible to see the goddess of the sea for the time being. But Xiaoming's special ability of Nen private tutor can bypass this condition and learn directly from David in the world of Tsukuyomi. It can only be said that Xiaoming has too many strange abilities. If he tinkers with it randomly, he can do something that is almost a miracle. Of course, the success rate will be higher if he learns from the goddess. The success rate is naturally lower if he learns from David. He himself doesn't quite understand it. Xiaoming was able to add the talent Undead Sea Clan to the diver's strategic panel entirely because Xiaoming himself has the three abilities of creating people. The three abilities of body shaping, wisdom awakening, and spiritual awakening given to Xiaoming by the great goddess Nuwa in the world of Zombie to allow him to draw inferences from one instance to another. Learning similar abilities will get twice the result with half the effort. Even so, it took Xiaoming more than half a month to learn this talent. Fortunately, it was in the world of Tsukuyomi, which was only a moment compared to the outside world. Of course, maintaining the world of Tsukuyomi for so long consumes a huge amount of mental power, and the level 3 mental power of the 7-star Shadow clone is definitely not enough. He also had to take turns to consume 3 portions of the 6th level peak mental power of the 3 Xiaomings, but he managed to deal with it without any danger. As long as the moon reading world is opened, the real time will be relatively still, and the attention of the 3 Xiaoming souls will naturally be focused here. Similarly, maintaining such a long period of private tutoring consumes more telekinesis. It was only by replenishing the triple source energy that he persisted. The diver, who is still a 0-level hero, has obtained another racial talent, the Undead Sea Clan. This is a primary, active, and mutant talent. The diver can consume mana and energy to combine the undead soldiers with marine creatures of the same level and transform them into undead sea creatures of the same level. This is the initiative of the talent. This talent is still in the primary stage, which is reflected in the fact that it can only transform undead sea creatures below level 2. The number of undead sea creatures that can be transformed each week depends on the diver's command power. When the diver obtains this talent, the command power is 500. This is the quota for this week. Moreover, this racial talent has also produced a mutation on the diver. The undead sea creatures that the diver can transform are limited to 2 types, undead naga and undead octopus. Normal undead sea creatures must be diverse. There are 2 reasons why the diver is restricted by the system. First, as a genius boy of the Naga clan, the system restricts him to only transform into an undead naga. Second, because he has the title of Ancient Octopus's toy, he can also transform into an undead octopus. That's all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 686. The undead sea tribe sounds like the undead arms that the sea tribes transform into after death, but the actual meaning is quite different. They are transformed by the fusion of undead arms of the same level and marine creatures. The undead octopus is easy to say, and it is relatively easy to transform. Because octopus is a common creature in the sea, with the primary undead sea tribe talent, Xiaoming only needs a level 2 octopus at most, which is everywhere. But the undead naga is not easy to deal with. Even if David Diozi is in his prime, it is difficult for him to make an undead naga. Because in the sea, the naga forces are still relatively grouped, and there are many strong ones among them. There are several who are no less powerful than David. If you really catch a naga to fuse with the undead arms. David is also afraid of angering the Naga clan. This is also where Xiaoming needs to be vigilant. After getting David's talent and experience, Xiaoming ended this private tutoring and also withdrew from the moon reading world. David Diozzi, with a favorability of 70, is finally available. Xiaoming appointed him as the adjutant of the First Sea Guard Fleet. He was responsible for all the daily affairs of the fleet. The next focus was to make the undead sea soldiers. There were plenty of undead soldiers, and one death harvest could get a lot. The number of octopuses in the sea was actually quite abundant, and they were also easy to catch. When the octopus escaped into the deep sea, the fleets of other races could not chase it. The divers' sea fleet could stick to it. The octopus they targeted could not escape at all. The only trouble was that the health of the 1-2 level octopus was too low, and it was often killed accidentally. Xiaoming didn't have time to use the Zerg to conquer it. Some lone octopuses found that they could not resist the divers' force, but chose to surrender. They didn't stick to the end. After a few days, before the weekend, Xiaoming had filled the divers' private army with 1-2 level undead octopuses. At the same time, Xiaoming did not give up the normal business of picking up resources and fighting wild monsters, and he was still doing it normally. Even because of Xiaoming, the guy who used the cheat, the divers fought several tough battles. Experience rewards were really obtained. For example, on Thursday, July 28, the divers fought 3 large-scale battles in succession. The first battle was the Battle of the Underwater Octopus Nest. This is the only octopus nest within a radius of 100 miles. There are so many octopuses that Xiaoming had to fight. Because it was underwater, the water fleet of Old Shoelace could not help and could only keep watch from above. The divers led the first guard of the temple to fight. At this time, in addition to less than 500 zero-level Sea Clan sailors in the fleet, there were also 10 2-level Naga 4-armed swordsmen of the divers, 10 1-level octopus slingers. In addition, there were more than a dozen 1-2 level undead octopus slingers transformed by Xiaoming. Of course, there were also the 2 leaders, the divers, and David. And in the octopus nest, there were more than 500 1-3 level octopuses inside and outside. Although Xiaoming has equipped all the 0-level sailors with long-range weapons with source energy, the strength of this group of octopuses is still far superior to that of the divers. Because they are also long-range. Almost all octopuses can throw stones, giving full play to the power of 8 tentacles. Even those melee octopuses, some tentacles hold melee weapons. They can still use their idle tentacles to throw stones at you a few times. It is very difficult to deal with. On the strategic map, unless there is overwhelming strength, players are generally unwilling to fight with such long-range wild monsters. The loss of fighting them is too great. To be honest, if it were not for the transformation of the undead sea tribe, Xiaoming would not have bothered with this group of octopuses. How to fight against so many enemies? Of course, you have to take the lead and rush forward. Xiaoming activated the every second counts stunt. This acceleration ability does not work on the soldiers under his command, but only on the divers themselves. The divers rushed to the center of the battlefield at a very fast speed. When the distance was almost right, Xiaoming immediately summoned more than 100 shadow clones in front of the enemy. This is more than 100 4th or even 5th level soldiers. They are extremely powerful and each has good combat effectiveness. At the same time, 13 aliens also appeared, transformed into alien forms, and rushed over with their teeth and claws bared. Aliens are creatures that can normally exert their combat effectiveness underwater. They swim very fast. Water escape 5 eating shark technique *100+, the shadow clones collectively used chakra to create more than 500 shark-shaped water bullets, rushing through the octopus group. Octopuses are naturally afraid of sharks, and they are approached by so many sharks. The combat power of long-range attacks cannot be exerted, and the 8 tentacles of each octopus are all in chaos. More than 500 octopuses, that is more than 4,000 tentacles. This chaos is terrible. They panicked and clashed randomly, and often the legs of different octopuses were entangled together, and they couldn't be untied in a hurry. This is the biggest disadvantage of wild monsters without heroes leading them, the lack of unified command. Xiaoming took the opportunity to attack with all his troops. Soon, under the attack of ninjutsu, the bite of aliens, and the long-range attack of the divers, only more than 100 octopuses were left out of more than 500. Suddenly, the system prompted, because the player has the title Ancient Octopus's Toy. The remaining enemy forces surrendered and are willing to join your army. Do you accept it? It turns out that this title has this use. All octopus monsters automatically have a favorable impression of the divers. Even if the war starts, when the remaining forces of the octopus troops are less than 30%, there is a high probability that they will surrender to the divers. So the diver immediately obtained more than 100 octopuses of levels 1-2. Several level 3 octopuses were taken care of by the shadow clones and died in the battle. Otherwise, the remaining octopuses would not have surrendered so easily. After the battle, the octopus nest was occupied by the diver. It was automatically transformed into a production nest for level 1 octopus slingers. The weekly output is 9. Suddenly getting so many octopuses, Xiaoming naturally started to convert them without hesitation. He even converted the 10 octopus slingers he brought with him. Of course, before the conversion, Xiaoming and his subordinates had to work hard to help those octopuses untie their tangled tentacles. There were really a lot of knots. Fortunately, Xiaoming had enough shadow clones. Undead octopus slingers, unlike David Diozzi, only the head looks like an octopus. Their whole body looks like an octopus, fused into a skeleton. You can imagine that image as an octopus that was originally lying on its back standing up. After half a day of transformation, the private army of the diver had 88 first-level undead octopus slingers and 53 second-level undead octopus slingers. How strong are they? In terms of long-range attack power, there is no difference between undead octopus slingers and ordinary octopus slingers. In close combat, skeletons can fight with weapons in hand, and both offense and defense have increased a lot. Vitality has also been slightly improved. It can serve as a main combat unit. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 687. The divers occupied the octopus nest and subdued so many octopus soldiers. After they were transformed into undead octopuses, their forces suddenly became much stronger. Xiaoming was laughing foolishly at the bottom of the sea. Suddenly, he found a group of pirates driving dozens of small boats, rushing towards the fleet of Old Shoelace from a distance. It seems that they are jealous of our 4 medium-sized ships. This is called robbers encountering thieves to rob. What a good trick! Xiaoming immediately led the guards to the surface. When the Sea Clan ships came near the sea surface, Old Shoelace had already fought with the pirates. Don't think that the 4 warships led by Old Shoelace are not large ships. But they are definitely not ordinary medium-sized ships. They were all famous ships before they were sealed. Although they are not as awesome as the Flying Dutchman, they are not ordinary products. Even if they are sealed to the level of medium-sized ships, their combat effectiveness is stronger than most medium-sized ships. The crew on the ship were all former sailors and pirates who were transformed into undead after death. The pirates who rushed up regarded these 4 ships as ordinary medium-sized ships, which was the biggest mistake they made. They surrounded the fleet for a long time but failed to capture it. The damage caused to Old Shoelace was not great, but their own losses were not small. This was because the fleet of Old Shoelace was not yet fully staffed. Since we were not in danger, Xiaoming was not in a hurry to show up. Because there were 3 medium-sized ships of different styles approaching in the distance. At first glance, the shape was not East Asian style. According to Xiaoming's understanding, these 3 ships should be built in Europe. How did they get here? Judging from the situation on the scene, these 3 ships and the pirates should be in the same group. The tactic is that the pirates will entangle the old shoelace fleet first, and then they will rush up to make the final decision. The reason why Xiao Ming did not intervene in the battle on the water for the time being was that he did not want to scare away the three ships. In order to attract them, Xiao Ming commanded the shadow clone on the ship to notify Old Shoelace. So our fleet restrained its powerful fighting power, and like a novice, it was very struggling to deal with the pirates. This play was performed quite well, and it really attracted the three medium-sized ships. This is no wonder. People never thought that there was an underwater army ambushing here. At this time, Xiao Ming Ou Kongmai Hua saw that many of the people on the ship were half-elves, and they were more convinced that they came from the west. When the three ships were close enough, dozens of water walls on the sea surface rose to the sky. Water escape water array wall *n. All the pirates' small boats were washed upside down. The three medium-sized ships also turned sideways on the sea. Instantly lost 90% of their fighting power. Taking advantage of his illness to kill him, the Old Shoelace fleet and the First Guard Army launched a fierce offensive at the same time, hitting the drowning dog. According to the battle mode of the strategic map, it should be to wipe out all the enemies. However, at the end, the game system began to follow the plot. This turned out to be a special plot. It is probably prepared for the first player to go from East Asia to Southeast Asia. The diver got a bargain for nothing. All three medium-sized ships were sunk, but 4 half-elves on them did not die, but were captured by Old Shoelace. They will be brought to the diver for interrogation. However, Xiao Ming thought about it, hid behind the scenes, and only sent a 7-star shadow clone disguised as a necromancer to receive them. Dear Necromancer, Portuguese merchant Anthony Lay salutes you. Even though he was captured, the leader of the 4 half-elves knelt on one knee and still greeted Xiao Ming's shadow clone gracefully. The other 3 also knelt on one knee to salute. Now is not the time to show their backbone. The 7-star shadow clone just nodded slightly without saying a word. This is also in line with the cold impression that necromancers give to the world. Anthony Rice was not discouraged and continued, "Your strength is admirable. We are convinced of our defeat. I wonder if you can allow us to redeem ourselves." The shadow clone did not answer but asked, "You are a Portuguese merchant, what are you doing here?" Before the other party answered, he added, "Don't lie, otherwise you will die. Or worse than death." When saying these 2 sentences, the shadow clone not only lowered his voice, but Xiao Ming, who was hidden beside him, also released the pressure of mental power. Anthony seemed to intend to make a perfunctory remark to get away with it, but after feeling the pressure, he broke out in cold sweat and dared not talk nonsense. "Sir, I am here to sell muskets to this area. If the opportunity is right, I will also do some pirate business." Anthony told the truth. Musketeer. Xiao Ming knew that although in the history of Pangustar, muskets were invented by the Chinese in the late Tang dynasty and early Qin dynasty. But in the history of the parallel space Earth, muskets appeared in Europe. They flowed into Asia during the Ming dynasty. The Ming dynasty was relatively stable and peaceful, and the arms were not sold at a high price. Instead, they were sold in large quantities on the island of Japan, where many countries were competing for supremacy. Therefore, Japan also had quite outstanding musket-making technology and craftsmen. It seems that I was involved in the plot of muskets entering East Asia. At this time, the musketeers must have appeared in the West. However, in the world of high martial arts and high magic, musketeers can only be one of many arms. Compared with archers, they also have their own advantages. It will not completely change the world's military structure like the Earth. Xiao Ming's mind moved, and the shadow clone under the water began to look for muskets everywhere. The goods brought by Anthony must have fallen into the sea. At the same time, the shadow clone raised his hand and pointed at the other captured half-elves. "Who are you?" he had expected it in his heart. As expected, one of the 3 half-elves was a sailor, one was a handyman, and the last one was a gun-making craftsman who went bankrupt and became a sailor on the ship. Even Anthony didn't know his true identity. He was exposed when he met the diver. He came to the East to find opportunities, hoping to make a living in the mysterious East with his gun-making skills. Although the four of them told the truth one by one under Xiao Ming's pressure. But this does not mean that they will submit to Xiao Ming, the undead wizard. After all, half-elves and undead are not compatible. Especially Anthony Rice, a businessman, his family has quite a lot of assets. How can he easily submit to others? How to deal with them? Xiao Ming carefully observed the life energy of these people. The handyman and the craftsman had not done anything bad. They were just ordinary people. Anthony was a businessman, and a smuggler of arms. He was not a good man. But he had not committed any serious sins. The sailor was somewhere in between the two, and he was not a bad man either. Xiao Ming allowed them to redeem himself with valuables. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 688. Anthony's fleet was sunk by the divers, and all the goods became Xiao Ming's spoils. Even the property of these half-elves actually belonged to the divers. In this case, what valuables can they take out to redeem themselves? Don't say, there is really something. Anthony originally planned to write a letter to the sailor to take back to Portugal, and then ask his family to use the money to redeem himself. It may take a little longer, but good food is not afraid of late, so it doesn't matter if you wait a little. But Xiao Ming is not interested in money, but he really wants to get another thing, that is, Anthony's sea chart. You should know that when sailing in East Asia, the researchers use the sea charts of the Li family pirates, so they can come and go freely. But the Li family's sea charts are only in East Asia, and the divers' fleet has now entered the waters of Southeast Asia. In fact, they are already lost. It's just that there is Xiao Ming's cheating device. If you use the map scanning device to scan it in large quantities, you can probably know that there will be islands there and land over there. It's not really lost. But the problem is that Xiao Ming's scan cannot be converted to his own sea chart, so it can't be done once and for all. So it's quite troublesome to scan frequently. And Xiao Ming can't always possess the diver. Most of the time, it's managed by the intelligent program. They don't scan the map. It would be different if he got Anthony's sea chart. This guy came from Europe, across Africa and the Indian Ocean, to Southeast Asia. He's almost in East Asia. And maybe his sea chart also has the situation in Northern Europe and the New World of America. This sea chart is absolutely priceless for Xiao Ming now. And for Anthony, it's not too expensive. Merchants who sailed here from Europe all have similar sea charts. Even if he doesn't want to sell it, the diver can find someone else to buy it. So he just sold it. Besides, the necromancer in front of him does not belong to any force in East Asia, so it's not considered a leak of secrets. If it were a merchant or pirate from Ming or Japan, he would most likely not sell it. Under Xiao Ming's mental pressure, Anthony did not hide anything. There was indeed Northern Europe on his sea chart, but unfortunately there was no New World. The value of a sea chart was enough to redeem the four half-elves. However, Xiao Ming also envied the craftsmanship of the gun maker. The diver was a sea blacksmith, who just met the conditions for learning the gun-making process. So Xiao Ming persuaded them to give them a medium-sized ship and a certain amount of gold coins, and learn the technology of making muskets from the craftsman. Other players can never do this, because blacksmiths need to get drawings to learn to make anything. The system arranged this half-elf blacksmith here, not to teach players to make muskets, but to let players or NPC forces spend a lot of money to recruit him. Only Xiao Ming can use the mind ability of a private tutor to force learning. It's just the production technology of an ordinary muzzle-loading matchlock gun. The technology is very backward, but it didn't take long to learn it. Due to the limited skills of this craftsman, the diver can only make muzzle-loading muskets below level 2. This is enough for the time being. The diver has the racial talent of a primary blacksmith. After learning this, he can immediately equip the fleet of Old Shoelace with muskets. Similarly, this thing can only be done by Xiaoming. Even if a player learns to make a musket, it does not mean that he is qualified to equip the troops with muskets. Because on the strategic map, each type of soldier can only use the weapons and equipment of this type of soldier, or use general equipment. Even if the player has the talent of a blacksmith, he must abide by this rule. If you really want to see musket soldiers in East Asia, the player actually needs to find a backer, such as the Ming dynasty. The player presents the musket, and after enough operation, the court will officially form a musket soldier. The player can only get the court's order for muskets. Otherwise, the Ming dynasty does not even have the musket soldier, and no one can use the muskets. Of course, if the player uses his connections, he can also hire some musket soldiers. But it is absolutely impossible to equip on a large scale. However, Xiaoming, who is a cheater, has broken this rule since he started playing the Magic Planet game. He can use source energy to transform exclusive weapons into universal weapons. It is estimated that in the near future, a large number of musketeers will appear under Xiaoming's command. But it is too late today. Because according to the information revealed by Anthony, Xiaoming learned about a village where many pirates gathered. It was in this village that Anthony learned about the information of the Old Shoelace fleet. The pirates in this area are too weak, otherwise they would have robbed Anthony long ago. They found that the 4 medium-sized ships of the Old Shoelace were parked there. They didn't know that the Old Shoelace was looking out for the underwater divers, and they thought that the ship had a malfunction. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they rob the medium-sized ships, the pirates will be stronger. But they were afraid that they could not chew this hard bone with their own strength, so they kindly invited Anthony's 3 medium-sized ships to help. According to the conditions they proposed, Anthony could get half of the spoils, including the ships. The condition that a kid could expand his own fleet by nearly doubled aroused Anthony's desire. In the end, a moment of greed led to a big mistake, stealing the chicken but losing the rice. Anthony also lost his original fleet. He was very depressed. Who should blame this debt? That's impossible to blame on the necromancer. Don't worry about whether people will be reasonable with you or not. Even if you are reasonable, you won't win. The fact is that Anthony attacked the Old Shoelace first, and he was just acting in self-defense. Even if the Old Shoelace takes the initiative to attack Anthony, the rules of the sea only depend on his fists, and Anthony has to be willing to admit defeat. So Anthony put the blame on the pirates who tempted him to take action. Very actively revealed the lair of this group of pirates. He just wanted to kill someone with a borrowed knife, and let the diver help him do it. Xiaoming is naturally very clear about his thoughts, but in this matter, Xiaoming is very willing to be a victim and be used for a while. It's a pirate stronghold. It's ours to snatch it away. Finally got a base. Taking advantage of the fact that the pirates had just been annihilated by him, it was too late to send the news back. Xiaoming must attack quickly. Otherwise, the other party is likely to disperse without a trace. So the 2 fleets of divers immediately set off for Manila. That's right. It's Manila. Xiaoming recognized this place from the position on the chart. It is a famous port city in the new Song dynasty. During the later Qin dynasty, 12 kings named it Manila. Now it is just a small fishing village occupied by pirates. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 689. The Manila assault that night was very easy. The defense here was too lax. Manila was not even the base of a group of pirates. Instead, there were many small pirates of different origins, just living together. Some of them were merchants. It was hard to tell the difference between sea merchants and pirates. No one could support themselves by robbing alone, so many pirates would do some small business by the way. In order to protect themselves, sea merchants must also have a certain amount of force. So in places like the sea that are not under the control of the court, if the opportunity is right, they will occasionally play the role of pirates. Manila is a place that deviates from the existing routes. Only some small-scale local pirates and sea merchants like to settle here. Forces of a certain size will go directly to Giarden. They don't even know Manila. For the time being, none of these small forces can be stronger and occupy this place. No one is convinced by anyone, which leads to a very chaotic situation here. In time, perhaps a powerful force will be born among them. Originally, Xiaoming thought that Manila would be a small village with some available resources. But when he got closer, he found that it was not even a village, but just a ruin. This map was just an abandoned land that was not even at level 0. There might have been a village here, but it was slaughtered by these inhumane pirates. Even this kind of village slaughter may have happened several times. There was no living villager in this ruin. Xiaoming ordered the fleet to surround this place from the outside and eliminate all the pirates who escaped. He quietly sneaked in from underwater, and only David Diozi accompanied him. The diver was invisible, quietly landed, and walked into the village. Although David could not be invisible, it was a mess here, and no one cared about him. The houses in Manila were either collapsed or occupied by pirates. Some pirates were too lazy to build huts, and they spread weeds on the ground as beds. It was really messy. These pirates were all kinds of people: humans, orcs, dwarves, half-orcs, half-elves, etc. Xiaoming also observed carefully. Most of them were soulless NPCs. The few intelligent ones were also guys who deserved to die. It seems that there is no need to worry about accidentally hurting good people. Not long after, several pirates' dogs suddenly barked. Then, the barking stopped one after another. Some pirates who were originally standing and walking also fell to the ground one by one. Soon after, the whole village was as silent as death. "Sir, what did you do?" David felt the strong death aura around him and asked the diver who showed up. "This is the Martian virus I released." "Oh, by the way, I have to release the antidote now." "That's right, this is not a regular battle, so players are allowed to use non-combat methods to solve it." The diver ran to the village and released the Martian virus. The Martian virus is powerful and there is no solution below level 4. Sure enough, all the pirates were poisoned to death. Most of them passed away in their sleep. After the enemy is wiped out, the antidote for the virus must be released immediately, otherwise all the corpses will become zombies. Xiaoming sneaked in because he didn't want to hurt innocent people by mistake. If there were good people, Xiaoming could give them the antidote first, and then release the virus. Unfortunately, there was not a single good person here. Xiaoming's intentions were wasted. Xiaoming himself was very strong and didn't need David's protection at all. The reason why he was brought in this time was actually to see if the Mars virus plus the antidote could play any role on this person. As a result, the Mars virus had no effect on David. The God's Curse virus couldn't be dealt with. Anyway, Xiaoming was just trying it out. What if it succeeded? If it didn't succeed, there would be no loss. After all the viruses were neutralized by the antidote, Xiaoming used the death harvest to destroy all the corpses and replenish some undead troops. At the same time, the fleet also came over and stationed in Manila. Due to their undead characteristics, the undead sea tribe can also run to the land to play. This abandoned land is actually worth developing. Xiaoming only needs to make some repairs and it is estimated that this map can be upgraded to level 0, and then villages and cities can be built. But with the strength of the divers, The whole army must stay here to defend it. If they stay here, won't it lose the meaning of exploring the outside world? Xiaoming plans to drive all the way to Europe. So the divers will not develop this place. They will just stay here temporarily. Xiaoming decided to tell the Li pirates the location of this place through the researchers. Wouldn't it be better for Li Huamei to send people to develop Manila? However, this matter still needs to wait until the battle between the Li family and the Ladeo family is over before it can be carried out. The pirates were eliminated silently, and their ships and property became the spoils of the divers. Even their bodies became materials for the death harvest, providing a lot of fresh troops for the old shoelace fleet. The next day, the 4 half-elves who had paid the ransom drove the medium-sized ships provided by the divers and left Manila quickly with supplies and gold coins. In order to prevent any accidents, Xiaoming cast an illusion on them, making them forget everything about Manila, so that they would not come and take advantage of it first. The medium-sized ship and gold coins were given by Xiaoming to the blacksmith who could make muskets. I don't know what kind of drug Anthony gave him. They are working together now. The ship did not sail southwest, but went north to East Asia. Xiaoming couldn't help wondering, there was no cargo on the ship, what could they do in East Asia? That little bit of gold coins was enough for a few people to live for a while, but it was not enough for maritime trade. They couldn't even recruit enough sailors. If it weren't for the special plot, the 4 of them actually couldn't drive a medium-sized ship away. This shows how heavy the gambling nature of merchants is. If Anthony went back in disgrace, not to mention the dangers along the way, he would probably be punished by his family for this loss. In the past, he was a captive and had no choice but to ask his family to pay the ransom. Now that he has redeemed himself, of course he has to consider how to turn the tables. There is always a way out. Xiaoming estimated that Anthony probably wanted to use the blacksmith's gun-making technology and this medium-sized ship as capital to seek development in East Asia. According to legend, the Ming dynasty is a country with gold everywhere. Anthony doesn't believe that there will be no place for him here. Xiaoming still admires his spirit. He also wants to see if they can make a name for themselves. If it still doesn't work, Xiaoming probably doesn't mind asking the researcher to lend a hand for the sake of their acquaintance. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 690. In the next few days, the diver did not leave the ruins of Manila. The surrounding security work was handed over to the fleet of Old Shoelace. The fleet composed of 4 medium-sized ships has a combat power that can scare off many inferior pirates. Xiaoming has some things to deal with personally. One is to equip his subordinates with muskets. This not only requires Xiaoming to make it himself, but also to mobilize hundreds of shadow clones to make it together. The quality of the finished product may be a little worse, but since they are all made by myself, it may take several weeks. There is not enough time. After making thousands of muskets, Xiaoming will use source energy to strengthen them into universal weapons. Almost everyone in the undead army under Old Shoelace has one. The extra ones can be saved, and new undead will always come. Unfortunately, the diver only learned how to make muskets, but he can't make hand cannons. Otherwise, heroes and generals can also get a few for self-defense. These undead soldiers under Old Shoelace, whether they are skeletons or zombies, are not musket soldiers. They are just normal soldiers with universal matchlock guns. In addition, the soldiers in the Sea Clan fleet cannot be equipped with matchlock guns. The reason is obvious. They are often lurking underwater and cannot use matchlock guns at all. After obtaining the physical objects of hot weapons, Xiaoming compared the advantages and disadvantages of matchlock guns and other long-range weapons. From the perspective of range, everyone is about the same. After all, the matchlock gun is still in a low-level state. The power of the matchlock gun will be greater, but the shooting frequency is obviously lower than other soldiers. It is estimated that if they are special matchlock soldiers, they should have some skills or specialties to specifically improve the combat effectiveness of the matchlock gun. In this regard, Xiao Ming's group of miscellaneous troops are powerless. They are more like a one-shot deal when equipped with universal matchlock guns. First, collectively use matchlock guns to shoot around, and then use the original weapons and use the weapons. It is also a big advantage. Second, divers need to find a way to solve the problem that the C-clan ships are too small. After the C-clan soldiers have a source, these 5 small C-clan ships are enough for the time being, but I believe they will soon be insufficient. To solve this problem, we naturally have to rely on Xiao Ming's biggest plug-in, source energy. In the past, Xiao Ming has always used source energy to repair the wreckage of large ships. After the repair, the potential of source energy on this ship has almost been exhausted. Because there are large ships in hand, Xiao Ming has never tried whether source energy can strengthen small ships to medium-sized, or medium-sized ships to large. He has tried to strengthen large ships. Unfortunately, the remaining potential can only increase the durability of the ship by a small amount. Now it seems that we can try a new way of playing. There is no wreckage of large C-clan ships. There is not even a medium-sized ship of the C-clan. For the time being, we can only use the small ships of the C-clan as guinea pigs. Thinking of this, Xiao Ming pressed the 4 hands of the diver Naga on the ship, activated the source energy, and kept silently chanting in his heart to increase, increase, and increase again. The result is not bad. After using about 2 times of source energy to strengthen the potential, the small boat was upgraded to a medium-sized C-clan ship. After the upgrade, the attack, defense, durability, and speed of the ship have greatly increased. And most importantly, the upper limit of the command power that can carry troops has increased from 150 to 1000. This is too much. Fortunately, the minimum number of sailors is enough. In addition, small C-clan ships do not have long-range attack capabilities. But medium-sized warships are different. They also have 2 side guns and a bow gun. Of course, it is impossible to use artillery underwater. These guns are magic guns. It takes low-level magic crystals to activate them. Fortunately, Xiao Ming has been doing cross-race trade for so long and has stored quite a lot of such low-level strategic materials. This can be regarded as a problem solved. Next, just strengthen the other 4 small boats to medium-sized ships. Xiao Ming can't help but be full of confidence. Although it will consume a lot of source energy, it still makes him feel that it is worth it. It was at this moment that David Diozzi, who had been watching and was shocked, realized that this was his boss's purpose. Why didn't he say it earlier? He immediately suggested to the diver that the admiral could use the Flying Dutchman. That was also a diving ship, and it also had a legendary title, so it could definitely be grouped with the C-clan ships. Seeing that he was full of confidence, Xiao Ming also thought he could give it a try, and immediately released the Flying Dutchman from the sealed bottle. It replaced a small C-clan boat. Even in a sealed state, the Dutchman is now a medium-sized warship that can carry up to 2,500 soldiers with command power. A small C-clan ship can only carry 150 command power soldiers. The average medium-sized ship is also around 1,000–1,500. The Dutchman is amazing, worthy of being a legendary warship. The power of the artillery, the durability of the ship, and the defense are much higher than those of the same level warships. And it can also dive. With such a high command ability, it seems that the divers don't need to worry about the problem of the fleet not being able to accommodate soldiers in the short term. Xiao Ming thought about it and upgraded the remaining few small C-clan boats in the next few days. A junior admiral can only lead a fleet of 5 ships, and the divers can't take the extra small C-clan boat away. They can only leave it on the seabed temporarily. At the same time, Old Shoelace also swept around Manila, eliminated several small pirates, and obtained a lot of spoils. In addition, Whenever he saw a wandering octopus, he would catch it and bring it back to the diver to transform it into the undead sea clan. Third, the diver must also take care of the things on the adventure map. There, the diver is the leader of a faction. Especially the shipwreck site that is fixed once a week, which can not only obtain the wreckage of large ships, but also obtain financial and military replenishment. It is not to be missed. And now the deceased has a master under his command, Jia Tang Qingzheng. He has a high-level construction talent. He once built a pile of ship wreckage into a fortress. So Xiao Ming will never have too many ship wreckages, and he will accept all who come, and he will use them sooner or later. Little did he know that even with a high-level construction talent, Jia Tang Qingzheng could not carry out that kind of construction anytime and anywhere. The restrictions in this regard will be discussed later. Let's focus on the diver first. He became the leader of a faction and had a cooperative relationship with the Naga clan. He is completely famous in Greystone Town. And so far, Greystone Town has not won a second player. In fact, there are a lot of tasks waiting for him to develop. In addition to the original tasks, there are also various new tasks generated after the arrival of the Naga forces. The diver was not polite and sent a large number of shadow clones to do these tasks. Try to gain experience and increase the level.